Welcome to Not Starving Artist, the podcast. I'm your host, Brooke Benson, money coach and equity actor. I am your financial cheerleader, here to help you build your financial confidence and have power over your money. The best part, no budgeting or bi-weekly paychecks required. I went from being a broke BFA grad having weekly panic attacks about money to a financially confident, wealth-building actor and business owner. Money gets to feel fun, simple, and sexy, and I am going to show you how. Hold up, have you registered for my new free training yet? It's called Get 3 Months Ahead on Bills with Fluctuating Income so you can do your art stress-free. The anti-budget money strategy for creatives, and it's happening on June 1st. I am going to walk you through why budgeting ruined my mental health and my artistic work as a creative. I'm going to teach you the 4-step process in the anti-budget money strategy. And I'm going to talk about how to get 3 months ahead on bills with fluctuating income and why this is the most important first step. And right after the training on June 1st, doors are going to open to my brand new group program, Cashed Up Creatives, which is the financial education your BFA never gave you. And it's helping creatives hit their money goals without budgeting or bi-weekly paychecks. Now, you want to be registered for the training because only people registered for the training will get access to a free bonus when you join Cashed Up Creatives in the first 48 hours. You're going to get a free 30-minute one-on-one money strategy call with me to map out your personalized money flow method that's going to help you get 3 months ahead on bills no matter what your financial situation is. So make sure you're registered. Link is in the show notes and I will see you there. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. I am so excited to be bringing on Megan Hansen today. Megan and I connected. I was actually a part of her program, Metabolism Makeover, did a talk on finances inside of the membership, and then we started working together as money coach. And so we have so many incredible things to talk about today. Money related in the actual tactical financial piece and business finances, alongside the parallels between financial wellness and physical wellness, which is Megan's zone of genius. She is a dietitian, author, single mom, and the founder of Metabolism Makeover, a nutrition coaching business with a focus on weight loss and metabolic health. Megan went from being in debt to building a 7-figure business with a community of over 40 dietitians and 7,000 past and present clients. Megan is dedicated to making weight loss an empowering process instead of one that is often filled with guilt, shame, and restriction. Ooh, we've heard that before. So, Megan, talk to us. I would love to know, to start, how you got where you are. Like, how did you end up in the business you're in?
Yes. So I am a registered dietitian. And when I got done with school, I graduated. It was 2009. If any of you remember that. And there were no jobs. There were absolutely no jobs available. So I bartended for years, made much better money as a bartender than I would have as a dietitian anyways. And I just I got out of that world a little bit, but there was always, health and wellness was always a really big part of my life. And I have a story, like many of us do, who are entrepreneurs and are helping people, in this space now, where I struggled big time with my weight and with food. And I went through my own transformation, and I was like, man, I wish I'd have known, I wish somebody would have told me this stuff and I didn't have to figure it all out on my own. So that inspired me to start a blog. You can probably still find my Tumblr out there, like on the dark web, but
I'm going to find it and add it to the show notes.
it's probably so embarrassing. Like it would probably get me canceled. Like, I don't even know what's on it, but I just started writing about, at the time, it was really popular number one, it was not popular to talk about weight loss. I'll tell you that. As a dietitian, it was not cool. Like, you would get in trouble. Like, you could not talk about weight loss. Also, it was very popular to be either vegan or hardcore paleo or just these really restrictive type ways of eating. And the other sort of funny thing is, and if anybody follows me, like, you're going to laugh at this, but just these blogs, these beautiful blogs with like these gorgeous pictures of food. This was what was really popular, and it just like really romanticizing, your meals. And that is so not me. And I joke all the time that I'll take a picture of my food and I'll be like, aspiring food photographer because it's awful. But that's most of us. Like most of us are not eating that way. Most of us are not creating these beautiful meals. We're throwing stuff together and running out the door and feeling guilty that we're not, eating these like perfect grown or these perfect meals. Okay, so that was my whole thing. This is eating for normal people. That was that was basically my tagline. And
yeah.
So, it kind of went from there. And then eventually I started seeing clients. And then eventually I, created a program. And now I guess this is like a major fast forward 7 years. And I'm here. I have a whole business now around eating like a normal person. And I also happen to help people lose weight.
Yeah.
And feel
I
really
love that
good
so much.
in their bodies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So if you had to boil it down to like three things when you healed your relationship with food, fitness, health in general, what would you say like three key things were, foundational things were, pivotal?
Yeah. So number one, it was looking at food completely differently than I had looked at in the past. So in the past, it was very much tracking, obsessing, numbers. This was looking at it at a more holistic view and saying, okay, instead of looking at the numbers, how is this food affecting my body? How is it making me feel? What is it doing inside of me? And I loved human metabolism. That was my favorite class. So kind of going back to like, what does my metabolism do? What does that
Mm-hmm.
mean? And so instead of focusing so much on weight loss and eating less and exercising more and being in a massive calorie deficit, I looked at how can I improve my metabolism and what can I eat that's actually going to fuel it up? That mindset shift, that's a pretty big mindset shift, but it is, but it also isn't. It's interesting because once you just start to kind of learn about your body and your metabolism and how it works, your whole brain starts to shift. And you're like, wait a second, I don't have to be so restrictive and this doesn't have to suck. This can be fun. Actually, it's feels good to feel good and to take care
Yeah.
of myself. So yes, mindset shift. Gosh, that was massive.
Yeah.
But then also just more tactically, eating protein at every meal, eating fat at every meal, eating fiber at every meal, eating carbohydrates. I used to do this thing where I just didn't eat any carbohydrates during the week. And then on the weekends, I would, binge on vodka and bread. And so
Mm-hmm.
there wasn't any more of that. It took away this like all or nothing thinking that I was in. Again, this is going to go back to mindset, but it translated into what I was, it dripped down, I guess should say, when you start,
Mm-hmm.
it's like when you start making those physical changes, it changes your brain. And then your
Mm-hmm.
brain also is a feedback loop. That's the term I'm looking for. It's like this feedback loop. And you start to see a lot more consistency because
Yeah.
you're being normal with food. And
Mm-hmm.
so all of that, I changed, right? I changed the way I was eating, but I also I think the consistency piece was huge. I wasn't just so up and down all the time, like overeating and undereating. The other main thing was I stopped killing myself in the name of weight loss. So I was running, 6, 7 miles a day. Oh my gosh, I exercised so much. It was ridiculous. And I started cutting back on that. And I swapped out running for weightlifting. I wasn't inflamed all the time. I wasn't in pain all the time. Again, this is going back to I felt really good. I started feeling good for once. Those were probably that would be like my top three that really created that
Yeah.
transformation for me. And what that
Yeah.
also did too was it made me question all my beliefs. And I think this is like a totally separate topic, but in like a tangent that we could probably talk about for an hour. But that was the first time in my life that I was like, I learned something that someone told me, an authority figure told me, and it wasn't right. And now I'm going to go question everything I've ever learned. And if you know anything about me, I do this. I question everything all the time. I question my own beliefs constantly. So it was, as you can see, so much bigger than just, oh, I lost 25 pounds. Like this was very transformational for me because when you, gosh, how you do one thing is how you do everything. And I think this
Yep.
is where we can probably start to connect like diet and money and just everything in our life.
Yeah, right. And I think you were one of the people who said this to me. You were like, this is like sneak attack life coaching when we were money coaching together. Because right, like how you do one thing is how you do everything. If you're really getting to the root cause, it's going to
Yeah.
change every area of your life. So I'm going to put a pin in questioning all your beliefs because we're going to come back to that. But I want to ask now, was there a moment of catalyst, or was it kind of a slow burn of change? Or what was the moment where you were like, I need to do things differently?
Yes, there actually was a moment. I was reading, I think it was a fitness magazine or a shape magazine, who knows, one of those magazines. And I think it was probably for the third time I had seen something that talked about weightlifting and said, just kidding, actually, weightlifting is better than cardio and, all the reasons why. And I was like, that doesn't make logical sense. That doesn't make logical sense. Well, finally, I think I saw it for the third time. And I must have just been in the right mindset where I was so fed up with just what I was doing. And I felt awful and I felt awful about myself. And I was like, whatever, like, I'm just going to do it. And with me, it's not typically slow. I'm like, I'm going to go all in. So it wasn't like, I'm just going to add in a couple weightlifting sessions. It was like, I'm going to stop running. I'm going to start weightlifting and that's what I'm going to do. And I'm just going to trust the process. And this is something I tell my clients too. I'm always like, you stop doing everything that you're doing and trust me for 30 days and then go do whatever you want. And that's kind of what I did with myself. And the results were so immediate that I was off the cliff.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. So, with that, then, what was your catalyst for money, wanting to shift how things were happening with money? Was that a slow burn or was that an immediate shift?
That was interesting. Okay. So let me think about this because I had two transformations with money. The first one started probably, let's say it was 10 years ago. I had all kinds of money issues, super scarcity mindset, was always stressed about money. I was a money hoarder, which, and it that did serve me in some areas. I think we can talk about this a lot with money, that there's no good or bad. There's a lot of duality happening here because I was a money hoarder and I was a very hard worker because of it. And I got a lot of my work ethic from this. And
Mm-hmm.
I never took out a loan when everybody else that I was an intern with, we didn't get paid. So they're all taking out loans. And I'm like, no, I'm going to bartend at night and work my butt off. Probably took years off my life, but I learned a lot doing that. But I got to a point where it suffocated me and I was terrified all the time of how much money, and I wasn't making a lot of money at the time because I just was so limited in my thinking. And I was listening one day. So yes, I think that here's a catalyst. So I was on mindvalley.com, whatever. And there was a program that came up with Christy Marie Sheldon. And it was like, I don't even remember, some weird like metaphysical money program. I wasn't even spiritual at the time, but I was like, I need to do this because I think I was desperate. Again, I got,
Yeah.
probably had hit rock bottom and I was going through a lot at the time with my ex-husband and debt and whatever. I paid like $500 for this course, which was an astronomical amount of money. But I did it. I was doing the meditations. I was like seeing the light come through my body. Like I was like, and that was so weird to me at the time, but I did all the things. And Brooke, let me tell you, the money started coming in. I was getting raise after raise after raise. And I started programming myself on my way to work every day. I was like, money comes to me, money comes to me, money comes to me. I had these
Mm.
mantras. And at this point, this what this did for me was it completely changed my identity with money. No, and this bled over into my business because I started gathering proof and evidence that I could do this, that I could make money, and also that I could shift my reality dramatically. And so I
Mm-hmm.
started building this self-trust. And that was really, I think, what helped prompt me to launch my business. And from that point forward, there has never been a moment where I doubt myself. When it comes with money, like, I'm just like, it's done. I don't know how to, would say I don't know how to teach that, but I also didn't always have it. It was just something that I began to program into my mind. And when I came to talk to you though, and I think because I told you this, I was like, I don't need help on my money mindset, which, by the way, like, not true at all. But I felt like that. I was like, I need help with, I kind of swung too far to one side where I'm just like, oh yeah, like, money just comes to me all the time. And I'm like, but I don't even have a retirement account. And I don't know where any of my money is. And I'm a mess. And so you helped me come. Now, I don't know at that point, was there a catalyst? I don't remember. I don't think there was, interestingly. I think that was more of a slow burn where it was just in the back of my mind all the time, like suffocating me again, where I was like, I feel so disorganized with my money. And I knew there was something intuitively that told me this is preventing me from making more money, because there's like a fear that's going on. And that's probably where I said, like, this is like life coaching, because I really thought I was coming to work with you to just like get my finances in order.
Yeah.
And we did that for sure. But oh my God, it was so much more than that. And you just like pushed me every single week to challenge my beliefs over and over and over, which I love, but also was very uncomfortable.
Right. I also just had a flashback. I remember exactly how we got connected in money coaching. You told me that you had written on a list, you were making a list of the things you wanted to call in, and you had put on the list like something about money, like something in the realm of getting your money shit together. And that week I emailed to pitch myself as a guest speaker inside of the membership. And I remember that being the thing where it was like, you energetically called it in, but then we moved straight into the tactical strategy. So I want to go there first, because like you said, like you were like, yeah, I didn't need help on money mindset, but like you really were good at the energetic piece of money and like understanding that. And then also needing tactical strategy. And I think what you do so well too in your world, right, with physical health is, yeah, it's identity, it's thoughts, it's mindset, it's manifestation. And let's make sure we're eating 30 grams of protein at every single meal, the tactical stuff. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on like, how did you blend those two in the physical health world? And then we'll come back to money.
The way that I blended it really honestly started with the more tactical stuff. But here's what I did differently with clients. Let's talk about what I did with clients. I actually taught them how their bodies worked. I did not just say, eat 30 grams of protein, eat this many carbs, eat this, eat that. We went into the science. And why? Because that's what I like to do. Honestly, there's no other reason other than like, I'm the person that's getting a facial that's like, what are you doing? I want to know everything. What are you putting on my face? So that's how I teach. And what happened was these clients that I had were like, I just saw that, like, yes, they were losing weight. That's great. But it was like their mindset shifts were just, they would come to me after 2 weeks and be like, you literally changed my life. And I'm like, it's been 2 weeks. Like, what are you talking about? Because when you start to actually learn, I say, this isn't just with nutrition and health. I feel like this goes with everything. You're learning, you're obtaining knowledge, you're learning skills. That information, it gets into your subconscious. Okay, so you're not just waking up in the morning and saying, I need to eat 30 grams of protein. That's a conscious thought, right? But when it's in your subconscious and it's like, you need to eat 30 grams of protein because that's what's going to keep you full till lunch. That's what's going to help your muscles grow. Your muscles are, increase your metabolism. That's what's going to make you burn more calories. That's what's going to do this. That's what's going to do that. That when shit hits the fan in your life, which it does, it will inevitably, probably at least once a month, then you're still eating the 30 grams of protein. Like, nobody has to convince you. You already know, it's already there. And there's something about that just completely shifts like the way that you think about food.
Right. And arming yourself with education is the easiest way to build confidence. Like you can build confidence through thought work, but like with money too, when you arm yourself with all the education, you know exactly why or why you're not doing something. It's all intrinsic, right? I think so many of us now are like, fuck you, I do what I want. But it's like when you're the only one who's making the rules, like let's get you educated so you can make your own rules and know why you're making them.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So now I want to know here, there's a couple of questions. Let me decide which one I
I was
want to
going
go
to
to
say, I
next.
actually don't even remember the question you asked and if I answered it. So if I just went on a tangent, you can re-ask that question.
No, you're good. I think we were talking
Okay.
about tactical and, oh, this is the
Yes.
question I want to ask next. You did answer the question.
Great.
The next question I want to ask is when we started working together, we were working on a lot of strategy, right? And tactical money stuff, right? Because that's what you were like, I just need to clean up my systems. So as we were cleaning up the systems, I'd love to know what you remember grounding into around the why, right? Like that education piece or like the why we're doing all of those. What you remember about the systems we put together, and then I'll ask my next question.
Ask that again.
Mm, totally different way to ask it. When you're educating your clients, right, around the why, how their body works, it is tactical strategy, but there's a reason behind all of it. So, what do you remember when we started working together on some of that tactical action strategy stuff? What were the new whys or understanding or things that were setting in for the first time for you in that realm?
I would say that a lot of it in the beginning was just wanting to, I mean, my why behind it was really just wanting to feel, it was for a feeling. It was, I wanted to feel secure. I wanted to feel safe. I have a daughter. I'm a single parent, so I'm her only provider. I wanted to feel, I want to wake up every day and just feel like everything is being taken care of. And if something were to happen to me today or 40 years from now, that everything would continue to be taken care of. So it was pretty, I mean, it was pretty deep for me, I would say. It was not surface level. It was like I'm responsible for a child. I'm responsible for myself. And I want to make sure that this is not something that is just floating around in the back of my mind because that's taking up energy and space. And I have a job to do. You know, I have a mission here on earth, and it is not worrying about where the hell my money is.
Yeah, definitely. So, of course, then that you mentioned this earlier, alluded to it, is it led to some deeper mindset work and some deeper, like energetic shifts. One of the ones that I remember being a big one was the identity of, I know what the fuck I'm doing. I'm standing in my financial power, right? Like, I'm not just, haha, I don't know what I'm doing with my money. It was, how do I step into, I got a child to feed and I got a business to run. I know my shit. So if you can elaborate on that one and then any other ones that you remember being big.
Well, you know, I grew up like most of us did, I think, in a household where my dad was the breadwinner. My dad was the one who was, you know, controlling the money. My dad was the money guy, and he knew everything about where all the money was. And here I am, just little old me, trying to figure out all these pieces and feeling like it was very much like you said, it was an identity thing for me. It was just like I did not, this was not something that I knew or understood, and that felt very unsafe for me. So what you really helped me with was sort of just like rewiring my brain around it, like where is this coming from? This is not
Mhm.
even logical, you know.
Mhm.
You don't know this stuff because you just haven't learned it, just like
Mhm.
anything else, just like anybody that comes into my program and it's like, I don't know what protein is. And I'm like, honey, I don't know what protein is. Where you been? But it's the same thing, you know? And it was just really a matter of educating myself. And I needed somebody to walk me through that because money is, I mean, it's a heavy energy. It's big. And it was something that I recognized. I need support with this. This is, maybe it's like, I don't want to say it's not something I can do on my own, but it's not something I want to do on my own. I want the
Mhm.
support, and I would feel a lot more confident with someone walking beside me.
Yeah, definitely. What were and are some of the mindset or identity things, whether they're tools, exercises, thoughts that you continue to come back to, fall back on, or that you notice the biggest shift when they clicked?
This is so basic, but just continually telling myself that I'm a CEO and that I'm not just a like online personality. Like I'm running a 7-figure business and I am the one. Like when I wake up in the morning, it's me. So put your big girl pants on, go make some money, and go like, I don't know. You can edit this part out. Go make some money and reinvest it and go spend it, go save it, go put it somewhere. Like, you know what I mean? Like know your money, like be financially literate. And I'm running a like not only do I have a daughter and I'm taking care of myself, but I'm taking care of multiple employees. And I think I used to just kind of put my blinders on and just be like, oh my God, like hopefully we have enough money. And now I look at my accounts every day. And I actually, something that I just started doing was at the end of the day, not at the end of the day, at the beginning of the day, I look at yesterday and I write down how much money I made. Like this is what the business brought in. And let me
Yeah.
tell you something, that is powerful. Like you want to wake up and feel powerful every day, go look at how much money you made yesterday. And if it's not much and you're like, well, that kind of makes me feel like crap, just doing this exercise, it's going to start to multiply. Like it is.
Yeah.
It's just because you're reinforcing every day, I make money, I make money, I make money. And that's going to just keep the momentum rolling.
That's huge because I remember working on looking at the numbers during our time together. Do you remember what the like resistance was for you at the beginning to looking at the numbers or what was going through your head?
Yeah, and well, I'll tell you that I go through peaks and valleys on this, and
Mm,
when I get in my mode where I'm, maybe stressed or there's a lot going
sure.
on, or I had a couple of kind of crappy launches, and so I was like focused on other things. That is the first thing that I will just say, like, I'm not going to look at the money.
Mm,
And I kind of went through that for a while. And so I can tell you it's more fresh in my mind. I think it's just that it goes back to, and this isn't necessarily a bad thing, but I'm just going to trust myself and I'm not going to look at the account. I'm just going to trust and I'm going to keep my head down. Now, but I also recognize that that is me in avoidance. Like I
mhm,
kind of convinced myself, like I'm just not going to look at it and I'm just going to stay in my magic lane, which is good for me too. But at the same time, there can be both. And this is more recently that I'm like, okay, I can do both and I need to do both. I need to
mm,
know where my money's coming from. And that is actually when I started this practice every day where I was like,
mm,
I'm just going to go because I'm not doing anything scary. It's not
mhm.
scary to go look at how much money you made yesterday. So if it feels scary to check your bank account every day, or it feels scary to dive into your numbers every month, and that kind of gives you like just go look and see how much money you made. And then everything
Mhm.
starts to get less scary because you're like, I'm
Yeah.
bringing in money.
Yeah. Okay. I love that. And I love that you talked about both sides of it and how things ebb and flow. And there is like this happy medium, right? This middle ground where an abundance mindset is not a real abundance mindset if it goes away when you look at your numbers, right? So clocking that of like, if you can't sustain it looking at your numbers, it's not real, it's fake, right? It's abundance girly mindset, like haha, abundance girly mindset.
100%.
Right. But alongside that, the reason why I teach financial CEO parties that are once a month is because when you are constantly fixating, looking at the numbers, like it can turn into an obsession that actually fuels anxiety and scarcity. So it's like trusting your money, managing it once a month, pulling back to trust it, and then you go back and look at the numbers, and then you pull back and you trust it, and you go back and look at the numbers. So there is that middle ground of being able to have both.
Absolutely. And as far as like checking how much money I'm making every day, like I don't think I'm going to do that for the rest of my life, but I do like this little rhythm that I've gotten myself in, and it makes me feel really good. It doesn't make me feel crappy. And it actually, and again, everybody's different, because this is just how I work in my brain. I look at it and I say like, okay, how can if I look at the week, this looks pretty good, but how can if my goal for the year is this, and that would make my weekly goal that would make my daily goal, like, what can I do? You know what? I've had this idea for a program that I want to do forever, and I keep tinking around with it. Like, I'm just going to go do it. And it's driving me to launch a lot more products. It's gotten me a lot more in my creative brain as I'm trying to think around ways to increase my revenue. So it's only been a good thing for me.
Right. And like the financial badassery and like the financial CEO brain that you currently have to decide looking at my money every day is going to cause these actions, and that's going to be good for me. Like when you're a financial CEO in your headspace, you take those actions and decide on those things for yourself. You're not like, what's going to help me make more money? Like, you know exactly the kind of tools and management and things that you need in order to push you forward. It's like knowing yourself and your money personality, basically.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So with that, I want to come back to now, like some of the tactical stuff when it comes to managing your business finances. Because what's hard about being a self-employed business owner is we all have a zone of genius. And most of the time, it's not business and finances and legal, right? Like all the stuff that comes alongside with running a business. Like my zone of genius is money. So I can do the business finances, but all the legal, the setup, all of that, I didn't sign up for that, right? But here we are. So when it comes to you tactically setting up your business finances, what are some of the things that you found most helpful, and like what's helped you move forward?
I don't complicate it. I just have, you know what? I have a savings account that I put money in every month. I try to check and see like what's my income. I take a percentage of that and I put it aside for taxes. And I just kind of like let that accumulate. And then it's just like, oh, it's like at the end of the year, maybe there's some bonus money, I don't even look at it. So there is that. Aside from that, I'm just always making sure that I like to have 6 months of operating costs. And I've had, people tell me, I've had financial planners tell me like, you only need 3, you're just letting money sit in your account. I don't care. I like 6, and that's what I want. So
disagree with your financial planner if it feels good. Yes, yes, yes.
Yes. So, and you taught me that too. So I keep 6 months in there because that makes me feel nice and cozy. And I think that's about it. Like, I will tell you that I very recently, and this is like a legal thing, divided my company up into a few different. So I have like a holding company. So it did get a little more complicated with that, but I can't even speak to that because that's just like lawyer stuff that I'm following through on, and that's where I'm doing what I'm being told, because I know that I need to legally protect myself, especially because I have like a book and IP and all that. And so when you start getting into that stuff, you're right. It's just like, ugh, it's not fun, but that's where you need help. You need help.
Yeah. Okay, so simple financial systems, right? Like that's
It is
exactly
so
what it should
simple.
be. And I also want to point out, like, when you're talking about, like, yeah, I don't know, it's just like so simple, but you also have decided to have 6 months of operating expenses. You're also putting aside 25% of taxes. Like, that's a system. And I just want everyone to hear 7-figure business, simple system. And it's working, right? Like just because you make more money doesn't mean that things have to get more complicated financially, or that like more money comes with more problems, which that's something we talked about. Let's talk about the mindset stuff that came alongside wanting to grow financially and being afraid of what that would come with. Do you remember what those specific things were that making more money would come with?
That's so funny because that is so not a part of my identity anymore that
Mm.
it's hard to remember. That
Mm-hmm.
like my identity now is just like the more money I have, the easier my life is. And but you're right, we did go through that. And I'm like, I'm trying to even remember what my deal was about that. It was just like it was just made up.
But this is also like a testament to identity work
It
that
is.
like once you ingrain it, you don't have to work super hard at it. Like we worked for about a month on this specific identity shift, but now that it's there, I love that you're like, I can't even remember who's she. I don't remember her.
But I think this shows so much that we have attachments to we have these attachments to our identity that I mean they start when we're little kids, right? And when we start to challenge those, again, we're challenging beliefs and challenging what we think about ourselves and challenging these attachments that we have. I mean, your whole world starts to open up. You're like, wow, this is not real. And you can see like I was just able to completely shift my identity so much to the point that I had no idea why I even thought that more money equaled more problems other than JC. But
Right. So I want to switch gears a little bit and I want to talk about your approach, which is anti-dieting when it comes to physical wellness. And my approach to money is anti-budgeting. And I think they are so paralleled because budgeting and dieting both result in a binge restrict cycle. They both result in shame and guilt. So I'd love to know from your end when you talk about dieting or when you have people come to you who are serial dieters, what are the things that you're witnessing dieting do?
well, it's all mindset, it's when you start to take things away from people and you start to place restrictions on them again without any sort of like knowledge or education or why you're doing this, it shifts something in their brain and it all of a sudden there's like a what's the word I'm looking for? Like a moral assignment to
Mm,
food. And when you eat that food that you're not supposed to eat, or you do the thing you're not supposed to do, you get this cycle of guilt, like anything in life, when you do something you're not supposed to do and you start to feel guilty and your conscious is coming in and saying like, you shouldn't have done that. And then you start to beat yourself up, you start to feel bad about yourself. And suddenly like the one cookie that really that big of a deal, like didn't really do anything, turns into 8 cookies, turns into an entire weekend binge because you're just in this shame cycle. And I just see this is the whole starting over on Monday thing, which I'm sure you see your own version of this constantly. I'll start over on Monday. I'll start over on Monday. And it's like, what if you never started over on Monday again? What would
yeah.
happen? What would your life look like?
Mm-hmm.
And that usually is a big light bulb moment for people. And that's why it's not that dieting doesn't work. I mean, we see that it doesn't, it's proven to not work, but it's not from a physical standpoint as much as it is a mental standpoint. It just restricting like that, it just doesn't work in our brains. We're inherently very rebellious.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not, most of us are not rule followers, even if we consider ourselves to be rule followers. You get to a point where, and with food too, it's not just mental, it's also biological, and
Mm-hmm.
the body eventually is going to start screaming for food, and you can't help yourself. It's not willpower at that point. It's like a biological drive to eat.
Yes. And that's like the dieting cycle, the binge restrict cycle is exactly what we see in debt payoff. If you are pinching pennies to pay off your debt and you are living on a ramen diet, almost every single person who pays off debt that way comes back into debt because when they finally can spend again, when they're done paying off the debt, it's like freedom. And then they start spending and they can't stop. And then they get the debt again. Right. And so it's that cycle. It's why people who win the lottery end up broke because it's that crazy all or nothing. And it worked. Like you can pay off the debt, but you've done nothing to fix the actual problem, which is in your head, which is in your relationship with money, your relationship with food, your relationship with your body. So, can you talk a little bit about all or nothing thinking? You talk about it all the time, and I talk about it all the time. So, what would you say or coach someone on when it comes to that all or nothing mindset?
Well, I would say that, again, I'm going to go back to this. I'm going to just keep repeating myself. It starts with knowledge. It starts with learning. And whether that is hiring a coach, whether that is listening to podcasts, audiobooks, I don't know about you, but when I'm working on something in my life, whatever, relationships, parenting, money, I'm consuming it all the time. And that's just how I learn. I think that's how probably most of us do. And it's just immersing yourself in this knowledge so that you can understand why you're doing what you're doing. And then from there, giving yourself some of that tactical structure and seeing those small wins. And in my world, small wins are huge because they allow my clients to see, okay, I don't actually have to be perfect to get results. I can start feeling really good. I can reduce my bloat. I can maybe lose a few pounds, maybe not though. Maybe I'm just feeling really good and suddenly I'm not thinking about food all the time and suddenly I'm not having cravings all the time. And that's incredible. And my whole world has shifted. And now I can just keep going. And I know that even if I'm not being perfect, I can still see results. And then you start to trust yourself and you start to believe that you can actually have this, and it just kind of like snowballs from there. So I think with the all or nothing thinking, kind of circling back, I do think that knowledge is key, and then I think that getting those small wins and really just proving to yourself that you don't have to be perfect.
Yeah. Okay. So with not being perfect, let's talk about weekends, vacations, not normal time, busy time. Like I'm too busy. I'm going to do it when life calms down, or like, oh, this month was crazy because I had this vacation and these people came over. You're never going to have a normal month. It literally does not exist. Go back and look at the past 12 months of your life and tell me which month was normal. It's a story we tell ourselves to keep putting off making the changes and prioritizing ourselves, right? And so with that, because I know you talk about what percent of our life is weekends, vacations, etc.
It's about 50%. Now, because if we just look at weekends, and I'm saying, like, let's say the weekend is 5 o'clock on Friday to midnight on Sunday. That's what I use. It is, I'm going to say this wrong. It's about a third, 33 to 35% of our week. Just that right there. So then you start adding in like, oh, girls' night and vacation and travel and holidays. You've got to be at least at half.
Right.
Yeah. And we see this because when I start having clients who are like, I'm doing this, I'm 80-20, and I say, go track for a week and see like what you're actually doing. I would say 9 times out of 10, they come back, they're like, oh, I'm only like 50-50, you know? And so, yes.
Creating systems and strategies and creating lifestyle changes that are built for the weekend version of you, or the vacation version of you, or the busy version of you. This is why I teach simple money systems, right? Like we can't be tracking every day. It's a tool if you need it. Just like you said, like go track for a week. Let's get the data, right? Get the data, but then that's not a way to live. Like let's build strategies for that version of you who's out at girls' night.
What I give to my clients is I call it the next best choice framework. And this is just very simple. Like, okay, let's use the margaritas. You're out having margaritas. You're out with your girlfriends and you're faced with a choice. Do I get the margaritas? Do I get the queso? Do I get do I do all the things? And you get to decide because again, you're going back to, I have all the knowledge. I know what this is going to do to my body. So I can decide that it's worth it or that it's not worth it. Let's say that it's worth it. Okay. I'm going to have the margaritas and the tacos and the queso and the whatever. Okay. So you make that choice. Cool. What's next? And this is what's going to prevent you from going on the binge cycle. Maybe instead of getting the frozen margarita with all the sugar, you ask for, just like tequila and lime juice and some triple sec, and you're doing like lower sugar margaritas. Let's say that instead of doing like your typical tacos, you get a taco salad and you're still getting the chips and queso and you're still getting your margarita, but you're making little edits here and there just to reduce the impact on your blood sugar and feeling like crap later. And then in your mind, you're like, I'm going to go home and I'm going to have like a giant thing of electrolytes and I'm going to take all my vitamins and I'm going to go to bed. And you know what? I'm probably not going to feel my best in the morning, but I'm not going to let that derail me because I already have, a smoothie prepped in the fridge and I've already got this, this, and this. I'm not going to miss my workout. I'm going to want to, but I'm going to go. And if I feel like crap, I'll leave, but I'm still going to go. Like you start to you see what I'm doing? And it's now that might seem like a lot. It's not, once you get used to this, you don't have to like walk through this all the time, but it's just being faced with the choice in front of you, making that decision. It's an informed decision. It's not impulsive. And then what's next? Like so simple, but so unbelievably effective. I would say this is like probably, other than learning about their blood sugar and things like that, this is the number one most impactful tip that I teach within my program. So people come back and they're like, I went on vacation and I didn't gain any weight. Like what happened? How is this even possible?
This is why budgeting and dieting don't work, right? And why they're actually detrimental, because in that moment, right, when you're thinking about, do I get this next margarita? Do I get the queso? When you're in the budgeting dieting mindset, it's either I've fucked my budget or I've fucked my diet. And if it's fucked, great, might as well just go all in, right? And like, let's just ball out. But when you don't have that mindset, what happens is, the metabolism and the money flow are so similar because they can absorb imperfection, right? Like your metabolism can absorb having another marg, but as long as you don't have 18 more margs and then wake up and eat out and eat shit, fried cheese the rest of the day, but it can absorb imperfection. When you get the second and third marg, because you're not on a budget, because you've given yourself playground money to spend throughout the month, your flex spending account, your money flow can absorb 2 margaritas without it being like, and now your whole numbers are fucked and you're not going to be able to save this month and all of that.
Yep. That was perfect.
When you loosen the reins on how you talk to yourself about what wellness actually gets to look like, you set yourself up for success. So when you redefined your version of financial wellness, what did that shift look like for you?
I mean, I think for me, it really was just about balancing, like having that balance in my mind. For so long, I was very, it was very feminine flow, like let's bring the money in, but I had no masculine structure. I didn't have that confidence. I didn't have that stability really, at least internally. Maybe physically I had stability, but like internally I did not. And that's what I had to master. And so I think that it really just became, for me, that shift was just the balance and finding that balance. And again, this is like with anything in life, finding that balance. And now that I have the balance and I have this incredible money mindset where I'm in like, I just feel like, especially right now, I'm not to be TMI, but like it's my ovulation week. I'm like receive. And
yes.
but then I also have these systems in place where I'm like 25% of my money is going to my savings account. Like I have we didn't talk about this, I have automated withdrawals that go into my, the stock market. And, I've got my IRA that I write my check to. Like I have these little systems in place.
Hold on, can we pause? When you were like, I just have such a simple system. I don't know. I just have a savings and a checking. Okay, automated IRA contributions. But like, also, I want to point out, like you creating financial wellness for yourself, you made it so simple that all of that, you're like, well, that's simple, right? That's nothing, but it's so big. But like the best things that you can do for yourself actually are the simplest because you don't even have to think about it, right?
Correct. And I shouldn't have to think about it, because if I had to think about it, I wouldn't do it. So automation is key.
Yes. I would love to now talk about like wanting what you want, allowing yourself to want what you want. Can you tell us about some of the things that you have allowed yourself to spend money on in the recent
Yes,
past?
actually, was I talking on a podcast? No, I don't remember, but I mentioned you recently. I'll think of it. But I mentioned you recently because I was talking about joy purchases. Oh, it was
Mm.
a mastermind that I'm in, because we were talking, there's been a lot of money mindset talk recently. And I talked about you because I said that you had, I was like, she literally had to force me to buy joy purchases. I think it was like, I don't know, once a week or something like that. And that was like, again, this is such a shift for me, because I have like joy purchases. I want to say all the time. Like, I went overboard, but I don't ever feel guilt for purchasing things for myself now. So big one, number one was a car. Okay, let's talk about this. I'm a 7-figure earner, and I'm still driving the car that my parents gave me like 5 years ago. And also, like, the car is a write-off, So it's like, why am I not buying this car? So that was a big one. And I got myself a Range Rover, which is what I
Mm-hmm.
always wanted my whole life. Not my whole life, but you know what I mean. And
Mm-hmm.
another one, though, was just like buying myself nice clothes, like buying myself, not thinking twice, and buying the workout set that is, $200 instead of the one on Amazon for
Mm-hmm.
$40. Like, and knowing I can afford this, and it's nice and it makes me feel good. So that too was just a huge shift in itself. Those would probably be my top two. I'll have another one for you. Travel. Like,
Mm-hmm.
oh my gosh, we talked a lot about travel, and just my weird hangups with spending money on vacations and spending money on travel. I will have you know that last night I booked a retreat for myself next week, a solo retreat. I am today booking a flight to go see my best friend, who I have never met in person,
Mm-hmm.
Lindsay Chambers.
Oh my,
Uh,
I didn't know you guys had never met in
we've
person.
never
That's
we've
wild.
never we've never met in person. I'm going to go visit her for
Oh,
2 weeks this summer. And I'm
amazing.
also I'm like, well, I have to do a beach trip with Tuli. Like, that this is not, I mean, even like 2023 Megan, this is not even 2023 Megan. Like,
Yeah.
this took me a long time to,
That's so incredible because like every week I was like, have you booked your vacation?
I
Have you
know.
booked your vacation?
And I don't think I ever did, but just so you know, like,
No.
some things take time, and
That's
here we are.
amazing. Oh, I'm so excited for you. That's so incredible. And I
I,
also, let's point out here that like the joy purchases range from, I think one time it was like a water bottle. Was it a Stanley?
yes,
It was a
yes.
Stanley. So like a
I got,
Stanley water bottle to a freaking Range Rover, right? But
yes.
like the same amount of mental work to allow yourself to want those things and get those things. So for anyone listening, this doesn't mean you have to like go and book the crazy luxury vacation to allow yourself to want what you want. It's the little shit too that like maybe just even like the small version of you really wanted like the really pretty cup, like allowing yourself to get the pretty cup.
Yes, I teach this. I've taught this to my sister. Like, this is probably one of the most monumental things that you've taught me, were these little purchases. And I think I teach micro habits, right?
Mm.
So micro habits over macro habits. Macro habits are great. They're great. You can see you super transformational if you want to overhaul your life in one night. Well, guess what? It's a it's very unlikely that that's going to stick. It's going to freak out your brain, your body, your system, your environment, everybody around you. Same thing here, where it's like, yeah, you don't have to go do the vacation. Like, go get the Stanley Cup and just do that once, and then and then build up. And that's really what we ended up doing. But
Yeah.
I ended up doing, but you like held my hand and like told me to buy the Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
And now again, it's easy. It's like, okay, if I need a Stanley Cup, I'm just gonna go buy one.
Yeah, it's like your money muscle memory continues to just support you. Like once
Yeah.
you literally build these muscles in the gym, yeah, you're still gonna build them, but then they start happening on autopilot. Like you're right, like the micro habits build up, when you're having to remind yourself to shift your thoughts every single morning, then they start automatically happening. You're having to remind yourself and go through your thought process around impulse spending, or like, why am I avoiding looking at my numbers? But then it just automatically happens.
I would say that the most profound shift that I ever made with money it really began 10 years ago. And so my issue, of course, was that I had like serious scarcity, stories in my mind. Everybody listening to this is going to be different. We all have different money stories. But taking that money story, if you can really figure that out and think about like where you're getting stuck. Clearly you're listening to this podcast, you're self-aware. Okay. And just taking that small thing and turning it around. So for me, it was money comes to me, right? Because that was not like, I didn't believe that money came to me. And I know, I mean, whether it's a mantra or if it's writing it down or if it's whatever, but the biggest thing that you can do to start to shift that is going back to this identity work and shifting your identity. So what is it going to take? For me, it was repeating something over and over again. That's so freaking simple. And I think you actually have to believe it. You can't just say it. But I can tell you, I said it enough times. If it's writing it down, if it's setting an alarm, if it's like when you wake up in the morning, you're not allowed to get out of bed until you start to embody whatever it is that is the opposite of what your current money story is. Like, do it. Like, that is one tactical piece of advice that I think anybody can do. It actually doesn't take any time at all, but that identity work is just, it is everything. It will trickle down into every single area of your life. But you have got to love and accept yourself first, because you can love and accept yourself and consider yourself to be perfect and still want to change, because actually the reason that you want to change has to be because you love yourself. It can't be, I need to change so that I can love myself. It has to be, I love myself, so I'm going to change. And like, such a little teeny mindset shift, but this is everything. Because you are going to, everything that you do going forward, if you can make that mindset shift and you can start to love yourself and change just because you love yourself, you're going to make completely different choices. And this is going back to the all or nothing thinking. I mean, we can go on and on of like what this all ties to, but that's where I would go first.
Yeah. And it's like releasing the heavy weight of whatever that hatred is, or even if hatred feels heavy, right? But the self-flagellation or the lack of compassion for the past version of you, right? And I see this with debt all the time. It's like being so mad at the past version of you who created debt or who put on the weight or whatever happened, that when you're trying to make a change, it's hard because you're trying to punish that version of you. You're like, you have to suffer now because you got us here. And so when you can love that version of you from the past and where you are now, and like act like you're not just saying I love myself, right? But you're actually feeling it in your body. It causes you to then like, I want to treat that person well now, and to treat that person well and not punish them. Now I can pay off the debt easier. Now I can lose the weight easier. Now I can not even lose the weight or pay off the debt. I can just start to have a relationship with money or with my body that actually feels good.
Yeah. Well, it's like conditional versus unconditional love. We give ourselves conditional love all the time. Like, I can't love myself until. No, that's not going to work for you.
Yeah. And if the end goal of everything we're doing with all of this is to feel better, like, what if we just felt better now and then you got to feel good the entire way through? Megan, can you tell everyone where they can find you if they want to learn more and connect with you?
Yes. Megan, the dietitian, on Instagram would be the number one place. My program, I have two separate accounts. The program is the Metabolism Makeover, but you can find that just by finding me.
Last question. If you were to leave all the people listening with a thought about your time in coaching, about money, about financial wellness, about masculine versus feminine energy when it comes to money, what would you leave them with?
Honestly, I could leave them with one thing, it would be get help, you know, and they're getting help because they're here and they're listening to your podcast. But whether it's hiring a coach or if it's something that you feel like you need help with, like get help. Don't let the fear, don't let the I don't know how hold you back. Get help.
Yeah, so good. All right, favorite money mantra as we end.
Well, money comes to me. I mean, that's like
Love it.
That's it. That's it. I will tell you though, my other mantra, this is a big one. I don't know if this is money, but to me it kind of is. I wake up every God, I've never told anybody this. I wake up every day and I look in the mirror and I'm like, you are the one. I did say this a little earlier, but I am. I'm like, you are the one. Like, it is you. And there is something so powerful about that because you are. And if you want to make good money, you want to be successful, you want to like manifest the best partner, you want to do all this, you have to be the one. You have to be the greatest person that you know.
I just had Work Bitch Britney Spears playing in the background as you were saying all of that.
I hope you add that in. Like,
I think I need to, right? As an outro. Megan, thank you so much for joining today. And I hope they all connect with you on Instagram. Thanks, Megan.
Thank you, Brooke. This was a fun interview.
Thanks so much for tuning in. Come join me on Instagram for more on how to build a simple, sexy relationship with your money. My Instagram handle is @NotStarvingArtists. And if you want to dive deeper with me, head to the show notes to learn more about one-on-one coaching. If you love this episode, subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a friend that you want to get rich with.